Welcome back to week 3 of the BarstoolDMV-Baltimore Podcast. We've got RDT here with Banks. What's going on, Banks?
Nothing too much. Been a pretty wild week of sports here in the state of Maryland. A lot to
Yeah,
talk about. So, might as well dive in.
tons of stuff this week. Like you said, we'll dive right in. We had Maryland basketball taking on UNC. Number 2, Maryland versus number 9. I don't know how you felt about it. I thought it was a great game to watch. Very exciting. Almost felt
Extremely
like
exciting.
it was like an NCAA game, just back and forth. Lead changes. It was tied. Maryland looked like they were going to get blown out for the first 5 minutes and ended up fighting back. Couldn't pull it through in the end. I'm not really that concerned with the loss. It's not college football. They were going to lose a game or 2 or 3. I don't think it matters that much about this game that they lost. It would have been nice for them to get this win, but like Turgeon was saying, I think it shows what kind of team they have, that they can play, run with the big boys down there. With Marcus Page back, they look very good. North Carolina did, but Melo looked almost just as good as Page, if not better at some points. He needed a little more help from guys like Jake Layman, but other than that, I don't know. What'd you think of the game?
It's a very exciting game. It pretty much the difference between the two teams was UNC played 40 minutes of complete basketball. They looked like a tournament team for all 40 minutes, and we looked like a tournament team for 30, 35 minutes maybe. The game was lost in the first 5-10 minutes when we were turning the ball over every other possession. At a certain point, we were shooting a good 66% and then had 9 turnovers or something by the 12 under. That just can't happen. But the rest of the game was incredible to watch. It was exciting. It showed all the ability that both teams have, and I'm really excited to see where each of these teams go because I think we knew what Maryland could probably do, and I think we got a little taste of what they look like when they're firing on all cylinders. But it just wasn't a 40-minute effort. So
Sorry. Like you were saying, the turnovers really killed them. That first 5 minutes, they just looked so sloppy. They not scared, but they were very skittish. Something just was off with them. I don't know. It's kind of been their calling card this year. It's their first 5 or 10 minutes. They don't really show up, it seems. I don't know if they were too hyped and they got the nerves into them, but they ended up 22 turnovers. That's a ton of turnovers.
that's an incredible amount of turnovers. That's like Terrell Stoglin era basketball, which is something I'd rather not think about ever again. But it seems to be a calling card of not just this year, but last year too. It seemed like the second half was their time, which is, it is fun and it worked out pretty well last year. But if you want to win these big games against these UNC teams, if you want to win the big games in March, you got to play for 40 minutes, and Maryland didn't do that. So, it's still November, or it's December now, but a lot of basketball. I think it exposed a lot of things that they could work on, which from a constructive standpoint is a very good thing. And then the other good thing is just the fact that you could see they're legit. Like the Maryland Terrapins are legit. The UNC Tar Heels are very legit. And I would love to see a Final Four matchup with these two teams.
Yeah, it's a shame that, Maryland's not in the ACC anymore and they can't do this twice a year. I think Roy Williams had some good comments about that and how he missed Maryland and College Park and, playing the Terps twice a year. No, like you were saying, they definitely Maryland's very good. North Carolina's very good. They're ranked preseason number 1 for a reason. And like I said, at the end of the day, this is going to come down to they lost to a team with their best player back on their home or on North Carolina's court, which it's not that bad of a loss.
Not at all.
And like you were saying, the playing 35 minutes. You can beat a Northwestern, you can beat an Iowa, or you can beat some teams like that they're going to play in the Big Ten. But if you're going to run them with the big boys in March, 35-minute games, 30-minute games, it's not going to happen. And you got to cut down on turnovers. Like you were saying, Terrell Stoglin, turnover machine. Melo had 8, which I hate to nitpick about his game because it was a great game, but it seemed like the turnovers, especially late in the fourth quarter. I think we had a bad pass. I think with under 2 or 3 minutes left, that seemed to kind of put the dagger in it.
There were a couple of daggers in that second half.
Yeah.
But like every time they'd start to make a little push, there was the charge call, which was awful against Melo on
Terrible.
easy 2. It was a lay-in for, I think, Suleiman. And then I remember Suleiman making a pretty crummy pass right to one of their guys, I think, when we were trying to make our last push. But that's what happens when you put yourself in a hole. You start trying to force things, and it was too little too late.
Yeah. And, I mean, Maryland, like I'm looking at the stats right now, 12 for 26 shooting from 3. I'll take that any day. But UNC went 9 for 13. So
you can't give that up. I feel like most of those threes we gave up were contested, and more times than not, UNC is never going to come close to shooting 9 out of 13. But it seems to be a trend, too. The perimeter defense is pretty crummy. We're having trouble fighting through screens. Melo, I feel like his defense is kind of overlooked. It's kind of a deficiency. I don't know if it's a communication thing with these screens or if he just doesn't have it. Diamond Stone, too, is very much a work in progress when it comes to communicating and fighting through screens and things like that. I remember specifically there was a play where he got screened up high, and the guy just had the easiest lay-in, just clear lane to the bucket. So, but then, like I said, these are all things that we can look at the tape and figure out and fix moving forward. So, all in all, it was a good night, I guess. I mean, you don't want to lose, but I feel better than I did going in because of the way that they had just laid eggs in some of these close wins against crummy teams, and this kind of showed even on what would seem to be UNC's maybe their best. That was maybe their best punch right there. Hung right with them in the second half and came back from an early deficit to make it a game. It's encouraging, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. And like you were saying, how you were feeling a lot better about the team. That's what Turgeon was saying. How I think Turgeon had a quote after the game that said he didn't really love this team until that night, because I think he saw what they could do. He saw how they could fight back, and it was like the Georgetown game. They took a punch the first few minutes, boom, fought right back. They were only down 6 at half when it seemed like there was one point where you thought that they could have got run out of the building before the end of the first half. So to show them coming back, it's encouraging. And who do they take on? St. Francis tomorrow, I think, Friday.
St. Francis tomorrow, which is my parents' alma mater. So I will be eating free wings and free beers before the game, and hopefully during it as well. So that's going to be fun for me. My old man's already talking a little trash. They're coming off a win against Lehigh, but they also just lost by like 40 points to UMass. Not a powerhouse. We're talking about Maryland Eastern Shore. They lost by 36 or something. Yes. So, I mean, that game is an afterthought. We're gonna blow the doors off them, but I'm excited to watch them blow the doors off of that team.
Yeah, it should be fun to finally see Jake Layman show up against the team, and because knowing Jake, he'll put up 30 tomorrow and have a bunch of dunks and pound his chest and pop his jersey.
Sure.
When he doesn't bother to show up against North Carolina, Georgetown, teams like that. But hey, we'll see which.
I could see it in your face for the past couple minutes that we were just getting to that Layman topic because it needs to be talked about because he was supposed to be one of the guys who stayed back. Could have gone to the NBA, which continues to be a joke. I thought it was a joke after his sophomore year and then after last year that people think he could be I see what they're saying. The frame and the shooting stroke and the stretch four, there's a big trend at NBA. It's just not there. He just doesn't have it from what I'm seeing. Something has to change with him, and it's these big games. I don't see how he could go play in arenas with 20,000 people every night and expect to be a professional basketball player. I just don't see it.
If I read the word Jake Layman, NBA draft, stretch four in air quotation marks one more time, I'm going to throw up. Because, and I've seen him, he's the next Chandler Parsons. And like you were saying, I can see it with the body frame. I can see with, how he's played. But it's not there. And if you've watched Maryland for the last few years, it hasn't been there. Or it's been there in games against St. Francis and against, teams like that, Morgan State, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, the little guys. He doesn't show up. You used the term when you were talking about David Price, mental midget. I think it's the same thing with Layman. If he misses some early shots, and this year his early shots have been air balls.
He had that wide open three to lead off that game the other night, and as soon as he got the ball, I was like, this better fucking go down. It needs to
Mhm.
go down because it'll dictate the entire night for him. And sure enough, he left it way short and way left.
Yep.
And sure enough, it snowballed, and he had no stroke the entire night.
Yeah, shooters need to see the ball go in, and with Layman, if it's not going in the first few times, he may not see the ball the rest of the game. With,
And it was the
with the way Suleiman they were taking. So, yeah, I mean he's got to do something. He's not. I mean, you can't really take him out. I guess you can start Nickens over him, but I mean
I'd like to see Nickens see more minutes, but maybe not quite yet at the expense of Layman. But it's hard. It's hard to rotate all those guys because all those guys deserve minutes, and
yeah.
I think guys need to be accountable. Namely, Layman. If he's not producing, we have other guys that we can go with, and that's fine. We don't need him.
I saw that someone was trashing him on Twitter after the game, and someone said, "Hey, you got to calm down. He's still a developmental player." And the person came back with, "He's a senior who's played in 120 games. He's had time to develop like this."
Yeah,
you're not a developmental player after 120 games.
I saw Will Bowers on Twitter talking about how you can spend 4 years and you can see what somebody could be, and you could talk about potential, and then 4 years later he's the same exact guy, and that's exactly the case. He's exactly the same guy he was 2 years ago, and he's barely better. I mean, he made a jump between maybe freshman and sophomore year, but he really has been the same guy.
Yeah.
So.
No, I agree. Yeah, like I said, I think that's kind of all we got on Terps basketball. We'll move on to some news that's been kind of taking you over this whole week with Maryland football. They got a new coach. Let's hear about DJ Durkin.
I've gotten no work done this week. I've been scanning the Inside Maryland Sports boards just because that's Jeff Ehrman over there. He does great work. He always gets the scoops on all the Maryland happenings. So I spend my whole week just refreshing. Every time there's a new scoop, I'd dive in, and then I'd be researching this candidate, that candidate, who's this, who's that. Durkin wasn't like the guy that I was in love with during the search, but the more I came to know about him, and then the press conference today for him, I was all in on him. He is full of energy. He is full of life. He's all about high energy. He's a Harbaugh guy. I love it. It's the best part.
That's what they needed.
He's the anti-Edsall. It's perfect. I love the hire. I love the guys that he's potentially bringing in. He's 37 years old. He's looking at this 34-year-old. I think he's a secondary coach at Auburn, who worked on the staff with him at Florida. He's 34 years old. He's got a whole bunch of guys with DC ties that he's already talking to join the staff. It's an ongoing process whether or not Mike Locksley is going to hang around. It doesn't look like he's going to stick around, but it seems like the recruits are trickling onto Twitter as Durkin seems to be working behind the scenes and talking to these kids, and they're buying what he's saying, which is great because it's pretty. People don't realize outside of this area just how fertile this area is with football recruits, with DeMatha and Good Counsel and Friendship Collegiate and all those schools up in Baltimore too. You got your Calvert Halls and a whole bunch of other schools up there. There's a lot of potential for Maryland to be a very, very good football school, and he's going up against his mentors. He's going up against Urban Meyer and Harbaugh in the Big Ten East, and it's going to be very exciting in a couple of years. And I'm hoping that Dwayne Haskins hangs on, sticks to his commitment, because if we do, Maryland's going to be very good in like 2 years. It's going to be a pretty quick transition.
I saw that he had coached, I mean, you just look at the names of the guys that he's coached under with the Urban Meyer, the Harbaugh, I think it was Muschamp at Florida too. Those guys, those are good, and he coached on some good teams. And he was with Urban at Bowling Green. So if Urban's taking him, that far, he's got to see something. And same thing with Harbaugh. Like I told you, I was sold on him when I read the quote, and you blogged it today, the story about him playing Harbaugh in basketball one-on-one for 90 minutes.
It's an awesome story.
Crap out of each other.
Yeah, just
that's perfect.
Each other is battling it out. I almost want them next year when they play each other to just play hoops again on the Friday night before the game and just get all bloodied up It doesn't. We don't even have to watch it. I just want to see them two show up on the sideline next day with just cuts all over their faces and scrapes and black eyes. I want to see that game reenacted at some point.
You know how don't they have the basketball teams? Their managers play.
Yeah, they do.
The night before. I think they need a coaching staff basketball game the night before. That would be great. No, but about Loxley too. Everything likely won't be back. Which I mean, I don't know if he's been touted as this great recruiter and he knows what to say to the kids. But then you look at his record and he's 3-31 as a head coach.
Terrible.
I don't care if you can talk to kids and get them to come there. If you can't win, you can't win.
No.
So you can bring the number one quarterback or the number one wide receiver or running back to your team, but if you're going 3-31, I don't care what you're saying to these kids to get them to come there.
No,
you're not winning. You're not getting the job done.
Now, to his defense, a little bit, he most of those games were at New Mexico, where he didn't really have a leg to stand on when it came to recruiting.
That's true.
Excuse that many losses, and he never really got to stay there long enough to play with his guys. But it's still 2-26 was New Mexico, and then it was 1-5 with the guys here, which I don't know. I feel like he did an admirable job in an interim head coach role. Admirable, I think, would be the word, because it's just a shit situation with the quarterbacks and everything. This just wasn't a good football team. You may want to give him a pass on hit the games here. I mean, you look at the Penn State game they were in. Was he here for the Michigan game? He was still the O coordinator.
Okay, all right. But I mean, you look at the Penn State game. That game easily could have gone to Maryland. A few of the other games didn't really go their way, but
think about this for a sec. Durkin, defensive coordinator at Michigan, held Loxley to 106 yards offense. 106 and 0 points, obviously.
Yeah, no points. Yeah. So I mean, if you can't score on them, bring them here.
40 yards after the first quarter. I mean, it would have been ludicrous to give Loxley the job, and he did everything he could. He tried to leverage all the power he had with all the recruits, everybody, a lot of alumni players tried as they could to put in good work for him. I almost have to tip my cap to him for becoming a finalist for this job that he had no business being a finalist for, but it just couldn't happen. And it's unfortunate that his ego a little bit is getting in the way of him staying here. I'm not sure if we really want him in that O coordinator role or not, but Durkin has his vision for how he wants the offense. He wants to run the power spread like at Ohio State, so that doesn't really mesh with Loxley's schemes. So he offered him a position job, not the coordinator job, and it was going to be a big payday because there was a cost of doing business and to keep Loxley and all those recruits. But it sounds like Loxley's going, so.
Yeah, and like you were saying, maybe he did a good job here. He did what he could here. Tried to make chicken salad out of chicken shit, which like you were saying, the quarterbacks are arguably the worst quarterback group in the country. Among D1 in the country. And maybe it is time that you just got to clear house of the the guys that not Edsel brought in, but some of the guys who were on that coaching staff before. You kind of just need a new beginning, and you let Durkin bring in his people, see what he can do from there, and like you said, we'll see how they are in 2 or 3 years, because this next year it's going to be rough next year, I feel like, too. So we'll just see after Haskins if he stays and quits following all these LSU people on Twitter in Florida. And
after I noticed that's kind of something I floated out there on Twitter. I noticed that Haskins started following a bunch of LSU people. A report came out that he's very, very open to talking to Durkin and seeing what the situation is and meeting the staff, whatever staff that might be that gets put together, and staying. He's reportedly very into the movement. Like, he's not just a Loxley guy. He's into the actual school. So I guess earlier this afternoon I was kind of feeling like maybe 25-30% chance he comes back. Now I'm feeling 65-70. And I think if Durkin just gets the chance to talk to him, Durkin being one of the best recruiters in the nation, I don't see how Haskins doesn't buy in, because I watched him on my phone in my cube give a 20-minute press conference, and I wanted to run through a wall for him. So I'm feeling good about Haskins coming, and that dictates the whole timeline of when the Terps arrive. And I think they arrive in 2 years.
Didn't Florida, like, just this week, even after he took a visit, didn't they have a quarterback commit there?
They had a quarterback commit to Florida that had just decommitted from LSU. So that's kind of like the merry-go-round that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
But apparently Haskins came away from the Florida trip not wildly impressed. So it's kind of looking like LSU or Maryland. I'm hoping Les doesn't, well, here's the other thing is Cam Cameron's the O coordinator there. Like,
yeah.
Come on, Dwayne. Like, open your eyes a little bit.
Just show him the Ravens, all those reverses and shit they ran.
Yeah.
We'll see what Haskins does. We'll see what other guys he can bring in with this hashtag movement, to UMD. And Durkin we trust now, I guess.
Yeah. Durkin.
You said it, man. Durkin for Durkin. Maryland runs on Durkin.
Yeah, all the above.
I loved it all. That's perfect. All right, yeah, we'll kind of stray away from college football right now. Talk about the Ravens. They had a pretty good win on Monday night. I'm not sure how many people stayed up to watch it. I know I didn't stay up to watch it. I'm guessing you were one of the people jumping up and down, screaming at your boy Brent Urban, who you called it last week. You said it.
I said something along the lines. I said, hey, he could get his mitts on some passes, or maybe with these extra points, he might get his mitts on one of those or something. So I'm not going to say I called anything specific, but I said, hey, this is a guy that could make something happen in special teams. So I feel validated a little bit. I'm pretty excited for the kid. You could see on his face in the post-game interview, he was just glowing. You think about being an NFL player for years, and then you finally get your chance when your dream was supposed to be just weeks away, and you get hurt twice, and then you finally get your opportunity on Monday Night Football, and you make a play like that. That's awesome. That's just a great story. So
yeah, that's it. Like you said, it's got to be an awesome feeling. All the times he got hurt, and I'm not sure how many snaps he played, but he literally had the biggest play of the game for them. So it's got to be awesome for him to not know probably how many snaps, how much playing time he was going to get, come in, have a huge effect on the game, and now he's, this is kind of what they've been expecting from him since they drafted him 2 years ago. So
sure.
Good for him. I like to see guys like that get a chance and pretty much just kill it. So good for him. Now I saw people were even giving Will Hill crap because this is that whole. On the radio, it's do you want the Ravens to win or do they get the draft pick? Which is
here we go.
Crap. I mean, I know how you feel about this.
With this, like, what is there to bash Will Hill on for playing football?
Yeah, that's so much. People said, oh well, he's going to cost us this pick. He's going to cost us the 7th pick. He's going to cost us top 5. And these guys have families. These guys are got contracts to play for. They're trying to play. They're still getting paid. Like the fans may want them to get a draft pick, but I mean, you probably know better than I do. These players don't want to lose. These players don't want to lose for a draft pick. So I hate all that talk.
I just talked about Durkin for a good 10 minutes there and how he's related to Harbaugh. John Harbaugh wouldn't have that on his football team. It's just not in his blood. It's not in his DNA. He won't have it. So, like, I know I've played this whole shtick about tanking and like all that stuff, and that's fun. Like, I'm just looking for a little silver lining in this just brutal season that we're having. But deep down, like when Kalen Clay breaks it for a punt return touchdown, I'm jumping out of my seat. I love it. I absolutely love it, and I'm doing my best to root for Schaub as best as I can. And he threw that pick 6, and I gotta say I was a little bit excited by that too, just because it kind of validated the whole Schaub aura. It was so Schaub, and so I'm really just rooting for entertaining football. I want to win the games, but if we lose, I don't feel like I lost. You can only win now that the season's pretty much done. Now I guess they are 2 games out right now. There's a shit ton of teams ahead of them. I just can't see it happening with Matt Schaub, but I don't know. Maybe you beat the Dolphins this weekend, and with a shit ton of the teams that are above us are playing each other, so a bunch of teams are going to fall back, and if we were to win that game, we would move up and be potentially just 1 game out. But I don't know. I'm trying not to get my hopes up whatsoever, but I'm just saying it's like, maybe we stumble back into this thing. You never know.
So you're saying there's a chance?
I guess I'm saying there's a chance. I just completely talked myself in a circle and contradicted where I started there, and then I just ended up almost starting to believe there's a chance to actually make the playoffs, which it's not going to happen in that job.
I mean, you know how many people had a tweets probably saved for when Shaw threw that pick six, and were just ready to just unleash hell on him. And I don't know. You could see that coming a mile away, and I got some enjoyment out of it. Like you said, I'm sure some of the Ravens fans were kind of snickering because, like you said, he lives up to that's Schaub football, baby.
It's pretty Schaub. He made the throws that were there that were pretty easy to make. He made some awful ones that just fell. Also, the receivers like he's working with. That's just another reason why this team still it just has no chance of going anywhere. But yeah, he made the throws that I expect, the one or two throws I expect him to make that should have lost that football game. The special teams came through. I had the tank loss, celebratory loss blog, if you want to call it, whatever you want to call it. I had that started up when the Browns got the ball after that late pick by Schaub and got the first down and the clock was dwindling and they're putting the field goal team out there. I was here on the laptop. I was typing. I was trying to get that blog nice and ready to fire right out real quick. And that happened, and I just about the block, and I lost my mind. I didn't know what to think. I was in a glass case of emotion, to say the least.
Yeah. I mean, well, they got Miami, like you said, this week, which they're playing in Miami. I feel like they've never played the Dolphins in Baltimore.
I know.
I feel like it's always in Miami.
I looked it up today. They've played 4 regular season games and 1 playoff game in the Harbaugh era, and 4 of them have been in Miami and 1 has been in Baltimore. And I don't remember the Baltimore one. I should have looked further into it. But all I remember is like we always go down there and we kick their teeth in. So
yeah, I feel like it's always. Well, there was the one I just remembered when the Dolphins were, where were they? Oh, they were like going 14, and they won that one game that year.
That was the last loss. That was Brian Hartline in 2007. That's probably the game that cost Brian Billick his job.
I think that's accurate. I could say that.
I mean,
but then, no, I was thinking about it. You know who they also play? The Ravens all the time. Chargers at home, like in Baltimore. But then they do have the Ray Lewis stop on Sproles. And
that
then
was in San Diego.
Yeah. And then the last 2 years they've played the Jaguars at home. So it's like the last 2 years they played the Jaguars at home both years and the Chargers at home both years. I don't know. NFL scheduling's weird.
I also feel like this is going to sound like such a gripe because of what Barstool is, but I feel like we always play New England. We never, ever. And it's because we always play them in the playoffs and we just get the shittier seed. That's just how we do it. But I guess 2 years ago was the last time a game was in Baltimore. And
the last 2 I can remember.
For my blogging career, actually.
That game, I remember that game in Baltimore. Then they had the night or two after Torrey Smith's brother died.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That was when what's his name, Hoodie chased down the ref.
Tucker booted it right
after
over
Tucker hit the winner. And then the Jabbar Gaffney game-winning catch in 2007, I think, to preserve their perfect season.
Yeah, I could go on for days about how that was a crock of shit. Yeah, Rex Ryan called a timeout, and coordinators aren't even supposed to be able to call timeouts. At least that was the rule at the time. So it was a 4th and 1, and they stuffed them, and the game was effectively over because Brady was trying to get real cute and like run one of his sneak up to the line and sneak it really quick, and he got stuffed. He absolutely got stuffed by Nada, but it turned out that Rex Ryan, Mr. Dopey over here, sprinted down the sideline, called a timeout, and it was granted to him, and it shouldn't have been. So it should have been over right there.
Yeah. They always play those weird scheduled games.
Our season was going nowhere that year, and it was more fun to see them get almost to the top of the mountain and then fall flat on their faces against the Giants. That was pretty fun. So. All
right, so we'll kind of wrap this Ravens talk up. They have to beat Miami. They have to. Miami's terrible. I don't see any way.
I do buy Dan Campbell though. I love his vibe. Probably just looking at him. I haven't really seen him talk, to be honest, that much. He just looks like a guy who means business. He's my kind of football coach.
Jeremy Kahn calls him Man Campbell, which I think that's a perfect name for him.
That's perfect. That's genius, actually.
But I mean, they haven't, since they beat the first week, the Dolphins and then the Texans. They've done they beat the Texans, and then that second week they beat the Titans, and I feel like they haven't done anything since.
Oh, you mean after the coaching change?
Yeah. After they fired Philbin,
right.
Then they just fired their offensive coordinator, I think.
Yeah.
I don't know. Tannehill, who knows, what he is anymore. I think they only ran for like 12 yards last week. I just don't really see. And like you said before, the Ravens always just go down to South Beach, and it seems like they just have a party on the field, and the Dolphins can't, shouldn't even be on the field with them.
Right. I can't picture them losing, although they should totally lose that game. A road game with the kind of football team they're putting out there right now. Who knows? We'll see.
Especially after a short week, the road team on Monday Night Football. Yeah. Yep. All right. So, and then I guess we'll kind of wrap this podcast up with the Orioles talk. Kind of a big move. I don't,
It's
not
feels like
not
a big move, but what we gave up makes it not feel like a big move. It was so like casual, like it should have never happened. Like Trumbo for Steve Clevenger. Clevenger, are you serious?
So the Orioles, they go out, and I had kind of had tossed the Trumbo talk around back before he was traded to Arizona. I thought, I looked at his numbers. He's all right. He's a power hitter, strikes out a ton. Not the best average, but not the worst. He's decent fielder. He's not going to win any Gold Gloves. But he's not Manny Ramirez or Hanley out there in the outfield. But that kind of died during the season. And then trade talk started heating up. What was it, Wednesday night or Tuesday night?
Something like that, yeah.
And, it said, Orioles are interested in Trumbo. You and I kind of went back and forth like, I don't know what they'd have to give up. You threw out Mike Wright, a guy like that. And then I remember I had to do a double take, and I was rubbing my eyes to make sure I saw it correct. And it said, Steve Clevenger is going, will be traded for Mark Trumbo. And then they threw in a second player. They got a guy. They got a guy who's hit how many home? He's hit 131 home runs in the big leagues for Steve Clevenger. And then, they got a left-handed pitcher who's had some time in the majors. I can't even say his name, Reifenhauser, which is going to be fantastic to hear Gary Thorne say. That's going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, for Steve Clevenger, the guy, I liked him when he was here. He did the job.
Yeah, I like the guy for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, he's a hometown kid. But with Weeder signing the QO, Caleb Joseph being Caleb Joseph, he wasn't going to play. He's essentially a 4A player. He has worked a lot on his defense, which kind of got him on the team 2 years ago after Weeders got hurt. He's played all right, but if you have a chance to trade your third string catcher for, I said he's not going to be a superstar. You're not going to fall in love with the guy, but he'll win you some games this year. He'll have an impact on the team. That's no doubt.
Yeah. So, what was interesting to me is like this is in a vacuum, and you can't even. It's not really a fair comparison. I'll say this up front, but I did notice that 162 game averages between Chris Davis, who could be leaving, I'm sure we'll talk about that in a minute, and Mark Trumbo are really not that far off. You get a couple less home runs, you get probably 10 less RBIs, and you actually get like I think it was 38 less strikeouts per year. So that's almost like a trade-off right there, and you get like a small bump of about 30 on-base percentage points. So across the board there, it's really not that bad of a replacement if that's the route we're going. Now, to Trumbo's advantage here, he's played in 3 parks in his career that are bottom of the third of the league in terms of home run factor. So he really could come here to Baltimore and really kind of, what's the word?
And not explode, but
career renaissance. Is that what they say?
I guess now he has a chance to show off his power here. I mean,
sure.
like you said, he's played in. I always thought of LA, but this is just me personally. I always thought of LA as a hitter's park, but you showed me the
It's a
stat that
right-handed park. I will say that.
yeah. But he's played, and then he played in Arizona, not the most hitter friendly park, and then he played in Seattle, where that's where home runs pretty much go to die unless you're Nelson Cruz last year. But yeah, I mean, I wrote in the blog, he can hit. He'll have a chance to hit anywhere between 25, 30 home runs.
He's a good
And,
stick.
yeah, I mean, he has tons of power.
He gives you a little bit of versatility, not Chris Davis versatility, but yeah, he could play a little bit of left field if you need him to.
He can play some left. He'll play some right. He can play first, and he can DH. So if I don't know where he's going to play right now. I don't think they know. But I mean, I'd be perfectly fine sending him out there and right every week. I mean, we did it with Steve Pearce last year. Why not send this guy out there? It's the same thing. If Parr doesn't come back or someone like that, they can stick him in left. He'll play first, and he'll DH. And I mean, I like it a lot, especially for what they gave up, which is practically nothing. I thought it was a great trade. It's not going to be their biggest. Hopefully, it's not going to be their biggest move. It's not going to be their last move. But now, I guess this is also something to kind of show off before FanFest in 2 weeks. So,
yeah.
we don't have anything to bitch and complain about that they haven't made a move yet. So
if you really look at it on the surface, they made that deal for Francisco Pena for cash.
Yeah, the
if
catcher.
you look at it like that, they made a swap of cash considerations for Mark Trumbo and a reliever. They still have a catcher. Yeah, that's really how it plays out. So I don't know much about that guy. I'm sure you've read a little more than I have, but he doesn't seem like he's a disaster. He seems like more of a bat than a defensive guy, but whatever. We shouldn't need another catcher.
Mm-hmm. I did read that. I don't know what it is between him and the guy, the new Mariners GM Dipoto, I think his name is, but he's traded him twice now because he had him in LA. So I don't know.
Trumbo?
They don't get along. Yeah, he's traded Trumbo twice now.
Interesting.
So I don't know if Trumbo has pictures of his wife or something, or he just didn't. I don't know. I don't know if Dipoto is trying to I don't know if he just didn't think that he was a good fit for the teams, but shit, I'll gladly take him off his hands.
For sure. Now, a little bit of a concern. It's not a concern because I don't think it's as you'd rather not have too many lefties than too few. But if Chris Davis walks, are we in a little bit in trouble because we have too few lefties in the lineup, or is that really a thing?
I think they will be in trouble because eventually they're going to go through some stretches where they see, some guy where they're going to have a lefty hitter. And, I mean, who are you going to throw in there? Weeder's bat and switch hitter?
Left, but Parra could come back and hit left-handed.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. Is that really a concern, though? The right-handers are always used to hitting right-handers as it is. So
I'm not sure if they're never going to go in and lose a game because, that's where that lefty hitter should have come in. I think I don't know. I think that dumpster diving Dan will find some way. He'll pick up
Pedro Alvarez, maybe.
I saw that. Yeah, he got non-tendered. He could be cheap. I think I saw that he scheduled to make like $8 million, or that's what he was going to make if he got tendered.
Mm-hmm.
And I was reading that someone could probably get him for $5-6 million, which that's another bargain for me. I think
Pedro Alvarez is basically a left-handed Delman Young.
Yeah, I could see that. Probably won't play much in the field, and he shouldn't, with how he was playing. But yeah, I wouldn't mind having him come off the bench and
platoon that DH spot.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, if Pierce comes back or someone like that, you can have him DH, against lefties, have Alvarez come in against righties.
So we're starting though, I think, to maybe get too many of those first base guys, those corner outfielders. So we don't know what's going to happen with Pierce. We don't know what's going to happen with Davis. And now we have Trumbo in the mix. We maybe have the idea where Joseph catches the majority of the time and Weeders plays some first base or DHs. Mm-hmm. Is that too many guys maybe?
Yeah, it's because at the end of the day, they're not all the same player, because obviously Davis, has more pop and is a lot better than those guys. But at the end of the day, they're all kind of the same type of player.
Right.
Where they can play first, you can plug them in the corner, and they can play DH. I don't know, Buck. I know Buck does like those guys, but at the end of the day, you can't have 4 or 5 of them, because then you're going to be short somewhere else. Plus, you got to talk. You got Mancini down in Bowie. You got Christian Walker down there. So it kind of seems like that. Yeah. I don't know that play. It's kind of a logjam down there. So I don't know. We'll see. I guess we really can't even discuss anything until Davis signs and until he.
Domino. It's a domino across the league too.
Yeah. And what do we got? Winter meetings coming up next week, I think.
Something like that.
Yeah. So
I think O'Day decision is coming by the weekend, I think.
Yeah, I had just read tonight that he said he wants to stay on the East Coast, and that I saw that the finalists were Orioles, Nats, Braves, and even though he said East Coast, Dodgers, but that money, Dodgers money can outweigh a home on the East Coast.
Right. My gut says he's going to sign with the Nats. I don't know why, but
yeah,
that's just what my feeling is.
I've kind of the longer this drags on, the more I'm like, oh, he's not coming back. There's no way. And I'm not okay with it, but it's not going to kill them next season. But seeing him in a Nats uniform, with the amount of Nats fans that I have and that we have to deal with, and listening to FP get to drool over him it's definitely gonna hurt, especially seeing him across town.
That's a dagger.
Yeah,
keep
pretty much
crossed on that end. But
yeah,
pitching, what the hell are we gonna do? Like, we gotta fix that somehow. And the market doesn't seem to be conducive to our checkbook.
Yeah, because they said Samardzija went out there and said, I have a $100 million offer on the table. And if the Orioles are giving, someone said, oh, this is typical, that would be an Orioles move to offer a guy like Samardzija $100 million. Like, would I take Shark? Yeah, I would take him if the price is right.
Yeah,
$100 million.
Right. I don't think the price is too high, but
no. But if J.A. Happ is getting 33 years, $36 million, you got to think, what is Wei and Chen going to get? What is a guy like Scott Kazmir, who I would love to have? That if they've got a Kazmir
name, I think that we should pursue.
And he won't cost
leaving.
Yeah, and he won't cost a draft pick. He's a lefty that you can throw in there. He's played in the AL East, so at least he's familiar. Plus, I've also seen names tossed around. Gallardo. I wouldn't mind a Gallardo, someone like that.
Yeah, not at all. The problem is bigger than it can't be fixed by him. A guy like that.
Oh, yeah. He's not going to come in and really, you're going to come in and boom, right the ship instantly. But then again, you're going to need. It sucks because you're going to need bounce back years from Tillman and Gonzalez, and a bounce back second. You want first half of Baldo, and you're going to want Gausman to show us, what the glimpses that we saw. And it just sucks that you're depending on 5 different pitchers to come on, guys, you got to prove this to us.
Yeah.
When these guys have been in the rotation now, what's Gonzalez been in there 4 years?
4 years. It's time for him to go.
Yeah, you got to shit or get off the pot, man. It's. And he's been great. In 2014 he was great. 2012 and 2013 he was good. 2015 he was. He was injured. But it's time for these guys. You got to show us what you're working with. And
I think it's safe to expect that the rotation will be better next year than this past year, just because we saw what the same exact guys could do 2 years ago. I just can't imagine those same guys being that crummy. But you still got to plug somebody in there, and Chen's leaving too, so
yeah.
I don't know. It's going to be a work in progress. I don't expect it to be fixed all that much. It's with our payroll, you're always going to have a factor somewhere where you just got to hope for the best. And we won the division when it went well, and we went 81-81 when that factor did not go well. So it's very much wait and see.
Now I think they're with Trumbo and all the arbitration guys that they signed last night. I think I saw that their payroll was around. I think it was like around 110 right now.
Mm-hmm.
And they were saying, if it's at 110 right now, I can't remember what they were at last year.
I think 118 was the number.
Yeah, and it's like to be competitive, you're going to have to be up around
150.
130, 140, 150.
At
Yeah,
least.
because
Yeah.
because say they go ahead and bring Davis back at, I don't know, 20 million a year, we'll say that. Then they're at 130, and they still don't have some of the holes filled that left from last year. Like you said, like we're talking about the pitching.
Right.
So,
Well, it all starts with the draft, and we stink at drafting pitchers. So, like, what can you do? Ideally, you wanna build through the draft, but we just can't get that right.
They
So,
can't, and that's why I'm not as enthralled with. Oh well, if Chen leaves, we'll get a first round pick, and I'm so mad that Wieters didn't accept the qualifying offer because now we won't get that first pick. There is no guarantee that any first round pick the Orioles get will turn into either a stud batter or even a guy who can contribute.
sure, but I look at it the other way, where we want as many of those picks as we can get because it's like a dartboard, and the more darts you got, the better chance you got.
That's true.
Very much a mentality that Ozzie Newsome has mastered.
Yeah.
Not even as much that he drafts the best players, it's that he has the most draft picks.
Yeah. I mean, it reminds me of, when after they drafted Harvey, and we're thinking, oh shit, we got Bundy, Gossman, and Harvey. Like, oh, we're set now. But then you think about it, it's, chances are the chances of those three guys excelling, let alone two of those three guys, it's not very high. Mm-hmm. And I guess we're seeing that firsthand that, just because you draft a guy high and, you can't, you may not be able to develop him, or you may see, you may find these unseen injuries. So, the MLB draft is just such a hit or miss.
Crapshoot.
Like I was telling you, I tried to look up all the high school pitchers who have been drafted in the first round since 2007. And I think I got to 2009, and they were I was 50 deep. And I said, I'm not doing this anymore. And half the guys had no major league experience. So yeah. It's real hit or miss, and the Orioles seem to be hard on the miss, especially recently.
Sure.
So yeah, like I said, we kind of got to wait for Davis, and this waiting game sucks because it's any minute you can wake up and you see that the Cardinals or someone like that's going to scoop them.
Right.
So I don't know. I mean, yeah, like I said, it's a waiting game. Got to hope that they come back. Peter has to cut some checks, and then I guess after that we can kind of try and get those second tier pitchers, a Mike Leake or a Samardzija, someone like that.
Sure. It'd be better than what we got. It's not my money. I wish he would open his checkbook a little bit, but we'll see.
It's true. It's easy to say that when we're not the ones paying for it.
Yeah.
All right. I think that's it for this week. You got anything else?
That's all I got. I feel like we've always forgotten to plug the Twitters a little bit. That seems to be what you got, what people do on podcasts. We're kind of.
I had it written in my phone. Plug Twitters. So.
Plug Twitters. So
yep,
at Barstool Banks for me, and
at Barstool RDT for me. I guess this is it for this week. We'll be back next week. More O's if anything happens. Ravens Miami game, Terps basketball, and we'll see if anything comes down with Terps football.
Sure.
Thanks for listening. Later.